Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
I'm Russ.
And I'm Sean.
And today, as you may be able to tell,
Yeah, why are we wearing these hats?
well, we're talking about our 12th free software update, Larkspur.
It's here. Today we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, long awaited. We've got three big things that we're going to cover today. We've got big improvements to workspaces, we've got big improvements to probing, and we've got big improvements to AutoPass.
Yeah.
But before we get started, just like any other session, we expect a lot of questions. This is some kind of complex, heady stuff, and we want you to ask them during the show. Please ask those questions in the chat. We've got Ted answering all those questions for you, and he's going to send them to us also at the end of the show for some demos. Now, different from some of the shows that we've done before, we are also going to be answering questions during the show if they relate to new Origin features with Larkspur, because we want to make sure that we cover everything on this system update.
Yeah, if you have questions about anything you see, drop in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them all.
We also have giveaways at the end of each of these shows today. We got some big ones. What do we have queued up?
We have one of these lovely hats.
Sweet. Okay. That's a start.
What else we have? We have
We have an AutoPass. We're giving away an AutoPass.
A number of patches.
Yeah, if you've got a good question, we're going to send you just one of these Larkspur patches. It's fun.
Yeah.
And then also, last but not least, the big one, a perpetual studio license. We're kind of spilling the beans on this before we talk about it. In the middle of the show, we got more studio updates to talk about. But we're giving away a perpetual studio license today. And should I say it?
Yeah, you should say it.
We have one more giveaway that... No, I can't mention it now. We have one more giveaway that we're going to say when we do the Q&A. It's going to be top
so
secret
stick around.
for now, but you want to stick around for the end for that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I got to take off this hat. I don't think I can keep this on the whole show, but we should
go backwards.
get started. I love that.
Yeah,
okay.
here, boom. Now we're in the zone now.
Should we go ahead and get started?
Let's do it.
Run through this system update. I think the very first thing is, okay, if you're new to Origin, what even is a system update? What are we doing? Where do we find it? What's going on?
Yeah. So if you haven't touched your tool or you haven't turned it on in the past 24 hours,
Yeah.
you're going to be excited. Go turn on your tool, and as long as it's hooked up to Wi-Fi, you are going to get a little blue icon in that top right corner. That means that there is a download ready. You can go ahead and open that up. Render an info. That's where you'll click, and you'll be able to access or update the tool to the newest software. So go ahead and first start with that.
Yeah, it might say Kirby Cove. It might say Inverness. We've got all the letters of the alphabet. We're up to L now. You're going to make sure to want to do that. And then once you have gone through that update process, it is going to show you a nice screen that walks you through some of the new settings.
Yeah.
Briefly.
There's a little reminder.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show folks where they can find that.
So we can go to the Larkspur release. In the L release notes. There we go. All right. We have export shapes, import designs from any Origin workspace. AutoPass is now compatible with pockets. Introducing labs extensions. Use probe to probe a circle to create circle work pieces. And now also available for rectangles. And we must first enable our lab extensions. And there's where you can learn even more.
Holy smokes, that's a lot.
Yeah, and we're going to run through it all on the show today.
Yeah. We're going to talk about probing first. I think we can go ahead and get into it. So it said we need to enable this labs extension. So let's go ahead and do that.
So again, back to that settings menu. Under extensions. There we go. Probe circle. Enable. Accept. And probe rectangle. Enable. Accept. There we go.
Yeah, so now that they're enabled, they'll show up in the create area of the design mode.
Yeah, so if I go toggle over here in the design tab, now we have two new features that I'm really excited to use.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a dowel queued up here that we're going to cut a tenon on 2 different ways. I think the best way to do this is just to go ahead and get started. What do you think?
Let's do it. So I have a large dowel. Here's the fun part. I don't even know what size it is. I don't care right now because Origin's going to find it for me.
Setting this up on Workstation. We don't work much with round dowels, but when you've got a bigger round dowel like this, you can just use that T-track slot to help keep it vertical. We also have some plans for V-block style fixtures for round dowels on Shaper Hub also.
Yeah, and before this feature, the V groove to hold it was pretty much the only way to locate and register stuff. But this feature actually is going to remove the need for that fixture.
Let's scan in. I'll also say that I really love these adjustable, the reversible clamps for this too, because it has a little bit of cushion to hold onto that circular object.
And it's got a little V groove in the middle, so if you put that in the center of the circle, it'll just hold it really nicely.
All right, create probe circle. And of course, it's going to walk you through just exactly how to do it. Lower your bit by holding the green button. I'm using the back side of the engraving bit because we want to make sure we get the most accurate representation. 1, 2.
You can see how that circle is being drawn there as Jake sets that 3rd probe point there.
3. Bingo.
And now we've got 2 things going on here, right? This probe gets 2 pieces of data. It gets the size of the circle, and it gets the center point. Third, kind of optional, we've got a grid going on here, you can see. We're going to show you how you can just place another shape on top of this to make a tenon. But then we'll show you some other ways to work with the shapes to make a tenon. And then we'll show you different ways also to work with this grid with different, more complex projects. But we're keeping it simple for starters. If you want another tenon on this, you can just draw another circle at whatever size you want that tenon to be.
Yeah, it's a really easy way to locate another shape on a circle. And so no longer do you have to find all the center points and do kind of complex math to figure that out. Just probe it 3 times, and you have everything you need to know.
Yeah, so how many stick chairs are we going to be making at HQ
Oh, we're going to be making a few.
It's like the those tenoning cutters that you chuck up in a drill.
Yeah.
Just really advanced.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so you just set the 1/4 inch bit in there, or do we have the 8 mil? What's going on?
I went 8 mil, and I'm going to cut down to 1 inch in 5 passes, but I'm going to bump up my roughing to, I don't know. That feels better.
Nice. So you can see that gray cut preview is clearing out that whole tenon area. Nice. We're going to just AutoPass cut this out.
Let's let it rip.
Nice. With this circle probe, we're going to show you a few ways to do this. We're going to do this like we're doing now by drawing a circle right on top of that. We're also going to be using offsets. You can just offset that original shape to make a tenon of a different size. And then we'll also be showing you different ways to use this to probe locations. If you just want the location and the size of that, we're going to probe that and use that. It's going to be a little bit half-baked because we're going to finish this demo toward the end of the show, but we're going to get the location of a power cutout in the top of a desk.
Dreamy.
Yeah, so awesome. I mean, not having to figure out where the center of that location is, put any size circle right on the end of a dowel. No math needed.
Tell you what, this bamboo cuts like butter too.
Nice.
Gosh, that's satisfying. All right.
Yeah, so like we mentioned while Jake was cutting, there are 2 ways that you can use this grid and location and shape to cut a tenon, for example, on the end of your dowel. One is by making a new shape. The other is by just using the circle itself that this circle probe creates to... I was halfway through that and I forgot where I started. To
Well,
make an offset.
Yeah, so sometimes you will have a specific size thing that you need to put on top of it. Other times it's like you may just want to clean that shoulder up a little bit.
Exactly.
One of the things that you're going to find with wooden dowels is they're not as round as you might think all the time, and so sometimes probing this just to reduce that size a little bit to get something more circular is actually a really helpful feature.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing now, Jake? We're getting rid of that circle that you created. We can clear out that cut history.
There we go. I was just starting fresh.
Great.
One, two, and three.
Yeah, and you'll notice when Jake's probing the circle, the further apart you can have the probes, the more accurate it'll be. If you put the probes right beside each other, you'll have a little less accuracy. So try to spread them out as best as you can to get the most accurate representation of that circle.
Truly triangulating.
Yeah.
Triangulating. Yeah, if you had a perfectly circular dowel, then this wouldn't be a problem. But when these wood dowels, they grow in one direction more than the other, then that's where that inconsistency is going to come in.
Yeah.
So now we've got that shape from the probe, and now all we're going to do is just clean this up with an offset.
Exactly. Like a 7 millimeter.
Great.
There we go. AutoPass on.
And while we're talking about this stuff, I would love to know how many software updates you all have been through, our audience here. Because it's been a long time. This is our 12th one, so chime in and let us know how many software updates you personally have gone through on your Origin.
This is our 12th update, major update. We've shipped some other updates in between there, but as far as like the updates that have a new letter, it's the 12th, and I've been here since the beginning.
Since A?
Yeah, we actually, we just picked a bunch of names, and we vote on them and figure out what the name is, and then for the next year or so, we work on it.
I think I've been here since H.
Nice. What about you, Jake? You've been here a while.
I think A.
A, yeah.
Wow.
B, Berryessa.
Berryessa for sure.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that tenon again. I don't think we showed that off.
So that is our offset tenon.
Same thing, different approach.
Yeah.
7 millimeters smaller than the overall diameter.
Yeah.
Great.
So depending on what you're doing, either way works. So yeah.
And we've got a lot of examples here of some other stuff
Yeah.
you could do. The tenon is the most basic possible thing. What might you want to do if you are, probing the inside of a circle and using the offset off of that? You might be trying to do something like this cutting board here, where you're just adding a little bit of an embellishment to the pull. Let's show that.
Yeah,
off
this
on the
one's
side.
pretty cool because Josh, one of the designers here at Chamber, he built this project where you probe both sides of this cutting board and cut down and remove material. But if you look on the inside, it's actually the same board of the cutting board, which is kind of a cool, interesting technique.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. Yeah. You can use the center point of that circle to center your text in a sign, for example. How would you do this otherwise?
I mean, this is
difficult.
This is a perfect project where you just want to quickly center an object or a sign or anything right in the circle. Don't think about it too much. 3 probes, you get the center point, and you're done.
This is a fun one. This is copying that shape and the size and using it to make a new piece that'll fit something else. So we've got this pepper grinder that was just leaving a horrible mess, and we wanted to put a cap on it. So we probed that and made a little cap for our pepper grinder.
And even, I believe when we did this on the inside, when we went to probe that, it was off by quite a bit. So we used that offset feature just to clean the edge up. And then we have a perfect fit on the inside versus a kind of a circle that's not actually a circle.
Mm-hmm. You can use this feature to take locations of multiple circles also and duplicate them. So we've got this wheel that has, one outside circle, one inside circle, and then these 5 weirdly spaced circles around the rim. You can probe as many circles as you want. What's the logic on the gridding there? It's going to take the first grid that you make and hold on to that by default?
Correct. Yeah, so maybe we should walk through this really quickly. So the way the probing features work is if there is no grid when you start your first probe, it will automatically create a grid at the center point of that circle for you. Now, let's say we already had a grid established at maybe a corner of a desk or something else, and we'll show this more later. When we make those probes, we might actually want to keep the old grid because we want to refer to the position of the circle off of a corner or a kind of a center line. So if you already have a grid, it will not overwrite the grid. If you want to do that, you'll have to do that manually. So maybe why don't we just throw a grid kind of on the far left of this just so we can show what it would look like and make another circle. Okay, so here's our grid over here, and now we get the position of that circle as well, which is quite interesting for certain applications. But if we make a new probe circle, let's just probe one in the air there, Jake. Doesn't have to be
imaginary
an actual
circle.
Imaginary. Circle. It's perfectly circular too. Okay, so now that we have that, you'll see here in the bottom that the grid icon is not highlighted. So if we wanted to overwrite the grid that we had, we would toggle that button on, and when we do that, we'll get the grid at the center point of that circle. If that grid is off, though, we're going to keep the old grid. And so we want to keep the old one. So now we hit the third probe, and boom, you'll see that the grid is still where we originally put it and not at the center point of that circle. So depending on your project, sometimes you need to overwrite the grid, sometimes you need to keep it.
Yeah, cool. We actually have a project where we should show this. Let's go ahead and get started with that desk piece that we have set aside. This is going to come back a couple of times during the show, but what we're going to do right now is we're going to pull the location of an electrical cutout in the top of this desk. We're going to probe off of one corner, and then we're just going to grab the location of the circle. Also, because this is going to be the inside of a circle instead of the outside, we're going to show you how you can switch the edge that you're probing with on the screen. How are we doing?
Looking for my desk piece.
Uh-oh. What do we do with that?
We have so many, many examples.
We've got too many examples right now.
Is it by the planer, Sean?
Check by the planer.
Yes, it is.
All
Yes,
right,
it is.
here we go.
Somebody cleaned up our workspace.
Who was planing plywood? There we go.
All right. So we're going to pretend like this is a much larger desk. And we have this cable cut out here.
And we just want to grab the size and the location of that.
Yeah. So we'll start off with a new scan.
Yeah, and so one of the things to think about with probing circles is there's a lot of circles that already exist in the world, and we're just trying to identify where they are and how big they are.
Yeah. All right.
There are a lot of circles that exist
They're
in the
everywhere.
world. That's crazy. You're going to see them everywhere now, guys.
That's the question. Are there more circles or trees in the world?
Whoa.
I don't know.
Circles.
Wheels. I'm sorry.
Circles.
Wheels. Thank you, Goose. Wheels or trees? All right. So there is our cable pass through. Let's go ahead and create probe circle. Drop my bit down into there.
So you already scanned this. We're looking at your workspace. We've got a bit inside the circle.
Needed to create a grid first.
You created a grid first. Wait, did you create a grid first?
I needed to.
Oh, you needed to. You need to now. I see.
Because we want whatever we build off of this to be parallel to our workpiece.
Exactly. We want to get that custom anchor point. We want the position of that corner so that we can always come back to the same position.
All right.
Now we're probing.
Boom. Boom. And look at that. That doesn't look quite right. Let's go ahead and swap that edge. And just like when you're making a grid, it swaps the edge of the probe that you're using.
Mm-hmm. There we go. We've got that position, and we've got that reference to the corner. And remember this, because we're going to come back to this workpiece later. We've got another demo that ties back into this.
Yep. Yeah.
But here's where we are for now. Before we move on from this, we want to show you rectangle probing also. It works very similarly to circle probing. Couple small differences. How many points do you need for a rectangle probe?
5.
5, not 3, 5.
Yeah, and that's going to also assume that your work is square and perpendicular. So that's on
That's
you.
important. Check the fence on your jointer for that one, because you don't want any 95-degree sides on your stock.
The way it works currently is that it's going to assume that it's a rectangular piece of stock. So when you're probing, we can reduce some of the probe points. So just make sure you double check that before you bring it into Origin.
Yeah, and this has the same kind of workflows as probing with a circle. You can probe the outside of a rectangle. You can probe the inside of the rectangle. We also added a little bit more flexibility in probing with this, because sometimes you're going to be up against that face of workstation, or you might be against an edge where you're not going to actually be able to probe all the way around the outside of something. So we have a little bit more flexibility in the way that this probe switching works. We'll walk through that.
All right. There's my rectangular stock. Create, probe rectangle, and a very handy little walkthrough.
Yeah, great reminders if you ever need this. It's always in there.
Nice visual. Drop it down. And 1.
So those first 2 points define the main axis, and everything else will be in reference to that.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo. I like this. You can see that center point moving along with me as I bring it in.
Yeah, it looks great.
And there it is.
So now, again, we have 3 things. We have a grid, we have a rectangle actual shape, and we have a center point. Center point happens to coincide with the grid, but if we had a grid elsewhere, we would be capturing that position.
Yeah, so this means you can place things quickly on rectangular stock without thinking about dividing the width in half and dividing the height in half and positioning of features. So like, Jake, why don't we just put a tenon on here quickly?
Yeah, let's throw a tenon on that.
I'm going to do a rounded rectangle. Got the height of 1.25 and a width of 2. I'm using an 8mm bit, so I need to give it at least 4, but I'll do 5mm radius. Grab that center anchor point, and there we go.
Boom. So
good.
As long as you get the center anchor point on the center of that grid, everything will line up perfectly. We can do the same thing here, like we did with the circle, placing a shape or offsetting it. Here in this case, we're just going to cut this one out.
Yeah, how do you feel about those settings?
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so for mortise and tenons, box joints, dovetails, any type of fixturing on rectangular material, I would say probe rectangle is your kind of go-to. Now, the only case where that's not true is if you need to reference a corner or a side, so you could always build that grid afterwards and still get the kind of the boundary of that shape.
And we've got a really cool demo piece that we'll show you after this also, where you actually probe circles and rectangles.
Correct.
For the same piece of work.
Yeah, and you know, if you saw the Larkspur launch video, we had some cool, and you might have to watch it a couple times or slow it down, but yeah, adding probe rectangle and probe circles together allows you to capture a lot of information in your workpieces, even if they existed already.
Wham bam.
All right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so it really just simplifies the process of aligning your designs with your material. You don't have to worry about making a mistake when you're typing something in. Just make sure you're probing it, have the right size bit in, and then you're good.
Yeah.
You guys think we need to show the offset workflow for that?
No, I think
we did it
people
with the
think you got
circle
it.
already.
Yeah.
I think people got it. But I do want to show this, because this is what Sean and I were talking about while you were cutting, Jake. This is the combo of probing a rectangle and probing some circles, and a bunch of circles, frankly. Like there's this finger pull in here. There's some features on the back of this that Sean probed out also that give it the right place to nest inside the table saw.
Yeah, so I basically took Origin over the table saw, put some tape down on top of the table saw, I probed a circle on this end of it, as well as up here, as well as a finger hole. And then I made a rectangle that kind of represented this kind of inner piece. And then, as you'll see in a little bit, we brought it into the studio to kind of add it all together and clean it up. And then we have a perfectly fitting table saw insert.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool that you're literally using Origin as a measuring device.
Yeah, so in some cases, we have trace where you can, draw or trace things and then get the file. But a thing like the table saw, where it's an insert, where it has a thing, it's actually quite hard to capture that. But with the probing bit, lower that down, touch it a couple times, it's easy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have something cool that I want to talk about with offsets.
Let's do it.
It's not a tenon. What if you got a cutting board and you want to add a nice juice groove all the way around the outside? You want just like a little 1/2-inch offset from the edge.
Super easy.
I think we should walk through this. I think it's pretty cool.
Let's do it.
Do you have a blank piece over there, Jake, or are we working with this one?
I got a blank. Ready
Okay,
to go.
nice. So the workflow for this is going to be that we're going to probe again all the way around the rectangle, except the rectangle is going to be way bigger this time. Is there a bounding limit on the size of these rectangles, Sean?
Not that I know of. I'm sure someone's going to tell us.
Accepted. Let's see how big.
Yeah, what's the biggest
so you can
shape
probe
you can
the
probe?
biggest rectangle, and then we're going to take the offset of that shape and just carve this juice groove around the outside of it.
We're running into.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some shelf pins in there.
All right, there we go. Set that down.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. Let's scan it in.
This is probably about as big of a thing as you would ever want to work with on Workstation, isn't it?
I think so.
Pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yep.
And probe that rectangle. Okay. Get that front leading edge.
Yep, just keep on going around.
And one note, because there might be a few questions, you can go counterclockwise or clockwise when you're probing. Doesn't really matter. But the point is you'll be working your way around the object.
Yeah. I'm actually running into that situation right now where I can't probe off the backside of my cutting board.
Yeah.
So instead, I know that it's firmly pressed up against my clamping face. So I'm going to swap that edge and actually probe off of Workstation's face. And final it out.
There we go. So you're picking your edges one by one in that case.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So we have this rectangle. We don't even care what size it is, length or width. All we're going to do is go ahead and take that offset, bring that offset in, and do
Exactly.
nice cut around the perimeter.
For this, I want to use our 19 millimeter
Yeah. So
radius bit.
and this is one of the ones where the offset actually really shines, because you might know you want to be off the edge with this kind of groove, a 1/2 inch or
Yeah.
a full inch or some
way
kind
around.
of a little bit, but you really don't have to think too much about it. Just offset. It's going to offset the whole thing, and you're on cutting. I think that's kind of one of the overall things you're going to see with the probing features is it's removing some of those processes that you used to have to do to get your designs into the right spot.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Easy bit swap.
Diameter is 19.4 millimeters.
Mm-hmm. This one's a little tricky because it's got that ball nose, right? Or it's the coving bit, so it's not actually going to cut 19.4 millimeters wide
Unless I
at
go
the depth
all
that
the way.
we're cutting.
Yeah.
But if you go all in, then you do want to know how big that bit is.
Go 1/8 of an inch. And I'll come over to an edge here just to show. Firstly, I want to cut the inside. And we're just going to offset this 1 inch.
What do you think about that? You like that spacing?
Let's do a little less.
Yeah, I'd go a little less.
See what 0.5 looks like. That feels better.
Yeah, that looks better.
All right.
Nice. One shot.
1 shot to 1/8 of an inch.
Cool.
Cool.
I like that.
I'm going to turn my spindle speed down because I'm using a coving bit that is a lot larger than most of our bits, so we like to turn our speed down for large bits.
Mm-hmm.
And don't hang out in any one spot too long.
Yeah. Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Let's do it.
And, one note, depending on the depth you're doing this groove, you might want to cut more than one pass. You could always activate AutoPass and kind of lower that depth of cut so you can make a bunch of more shallow passes. And it's actually kind of interesting. It does two things. One, you're putting less load on the bit as you go through your material. But two, as you go deeper, you're actually widening your path. And so instead of doing it in one go, you can get a little bit better cut quality sometimes if you're going deeper because you're actually widening at the same time.
Yeah, for this it's like a roughing pass versus the finishing pass.
Correct.
Exactly. And we do the same thing for engraving as well. Also, if you get slight burn marks on your piece, just taking off an extra, 5,000ths of an
they can
inch
save
is
you a
gonna
couple
skim
hours in
off the
sanding.
burn marks. Yeah, exactly. I heard from somebody that if you water pop your grain and then do a pass at exactly the same settings, it'll skim off
That would make sense.
the popped grain.
Yeah, interesting.
Help you clean that up in there. Nice. And as everybody knows, all Jake has to do here is just keep Origin on that line. As he's going around, I think I caught that right as he went off the line. But if you do that, Origin's going to automatically retract that spindle to prevent you from messing up your cut.
I'm going to do that finish pass just while we were talking about it too, by adding 5 thou.
Okay, great.
Real quick.
Light little cut.
Yeah, so you don't need AutoPass to do that. You can just lower it on the second pass as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let us know in the comments who's new to Origin, by the way. This is a pretty pro show, so there's some basic stuff that we're glossing over. But the gist of it here is that Jake is moving the router around. All he needs to do is keep that dot inside the circle. The closer to the center of the crosshairs, the better, just for ease of use. And Origin is keeping him exactly on that cut path while he goes around this rectangle.
Yeah.
If that dot leaves the circle for any reason at any time, Origin is going to retract that spindle, and it's going to prevent you from messing up your cut in an awful way. So it's really great. It gives you super accurate results and helps save you from making too many mistakes.
All right.
Beautiful.
Wow, looks beautiful.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's leave that. I think we need to leave that chucked up also because our next demo has to do with this cutting board too.
That's true, but I was going to put that on the back.
Okay, yeah, let's put it on the back. Yeah, kind of gauche to put your name right on the top center of the cutting board, isn't it?
Or is it really cool because all the juices settle
Is it really cool?
I don't know.
Says the guy with the backwards hat. That's really cool, guys. I think that's everything that we had to talk about with probing.
Yeah, I mean, that's all of the stuff for probing. Definitely get some time on it. Do some practice. Make sure you have your bit set correctly and you're just lightly pressing like we teach you for gridding. It's no different than the gridding process. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize that we are a half hour into the show. It's going to be a long one, everybody, so buckle up. We have one of our 3 features down now, and the next one, I think, is both the most exciting and maybe also, frankly, the most complicated, so we've got a lot to talk about. Workspace Improvements. Can you give us the gist on Workspace Improvements, Sean?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things you can do with Origin. One of those things being creating things directly on a tool. And for a lot of people, that's something, that's one of the easiest ways to get what you need to cut on tool. And we've added features over the software releases that allow it to get better. So we've added things like text, we've added things like slots, circle and rectangle have been there since probably Barry Essa days. But the features that we're really looking at this year in Larkspur are the ability to save those things. So you could build things on Tool, but you really couldn't get them out. And now you can with Larkspur.
Yeah, I want to reiterate how jazzed I am for this because I've been asking to save workspaces. People have been asking to save workspaces for a long, long time. And we went beyond that. It's not just saving them out. There's a lot more that you can do.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into all those projects quite soon.
So first step here is we want to, we're working on this cutting board again. We want to grid it so that we can put our design in the back center of it. And the new thing that we're going to do is we don't need to design this at all because we already made our logo for Jake's cutting board in a previous show or, for a previous project that we did. We're actually going to be able to import that design from a different workspace into the workspace that we're working on now.
Correct. So, being able to pull off anything you've ever created on Origin in another workspace into the current workspace. And this is really helpful when, let's say you've created something like a mortise and tenon on Workstation and you want to then cut it on plate on the opposite opposing side. You can just bring that file over. You don't have to recreate it on Tool. You don't have to make sure you click all the right buttons. It'll come in exactly as you've designed it in the previous one and save you all that time.
Yeah. Another cool thing here is that this works without Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Everything on Origin works without Wi-Fi. The vast majority of everything works on Origin without Wi-Fi. You can import, export stuff on USB stick, but what if you're going to work on a project and your Wi-Fi is down? You don't have your USB stick, but you've got your file in your other workspace. That's going to let you bring that file in from the other workspace so that you can work on it.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to lose Wi-Fi. Jake can attest. We were at a trade show last week, and Wi-Fi went out, and we luckily had already created that file in another workspace, so we were able to go find it, grab it, and pull it. And one of the things is, when you do this, it's helpful to name your workspaces, and we've shown that in previous shows. But when you name it, it's much easier to find those files later.
Yeah, 100%. So what did we just do? We flipped the cutting board over, we scanned it in, it's gridded with a rectangle probe now. So we've got the center point of this rectangle. Now we're going to import your logo just from another workspace, right, Jake? This was on tool design, just some simple text, 3 lines, kind of tastefully spaced.
And kind of what you're seeing up there is that far right on the import screen is actually the new button. So we have the USB in the middle, and then Shaper Hub on the left, and then Workspaces on the far right. And so that far right tab's all brand new. These are all the workspaces we've ever created on this tool. Regardless of whether you're online or not, you can access them. This is some text we created earlier, and it's just so nice to be able to pull that in without having to recreate the perfect size, the alignment, all those little details of, you've already taken the time to design those things. Now you can just access them again.
Yeah, we spent some time getting the spacing just right on this. Jake's spending some time getting the Z-touch just right on this also. I know he's taking this home at the end of the show.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna put the logo on the top. All right, we're engraving. So I like to just tweak my speeds a little bit for this. Spindle speed down, I think around 3. Auto speed up, depending on what it is that you're cutting. But for this kind of text that fits in the corrective range, I'm going up to like 20 inches per minute. Because I'm just staying still primarily, and I'm letting Origin's incredible accuracy do the work for me.
Okay.
Let's do it. I do not want to cut to 0.13 though, so I'm going to notice that. There we go.
Nice. Let her rip. And while Jake's doing this, keep those questions rolling in, guys. We covered probing start to finish, so if you have any questions on probing, now's the time to ask them.
Yep, and we'll go over those in the Q&A.
In the Q&A, definitely. This engraving stuff, pretty straightforward. We've done a lot of shows on engraving. If you have any questions on that, check out some of our more introductory sessions.
You'll see Jake's actually using a double tap to start a cut to allow Origin to just automatically work its way through there at that auto speed. Quite nice for cutting small letters.
But the coolest thing about this, I got to reiterate, because I think it happened so quick, is that we didn't have to design this at all.
Correct.
We designed it earlier, and we just imported that workspace from a different project right onto this cutting board. So you designed this stuff once, and then it's yours to use forever and ever.
As long as you don't delete the workspaces.
Don't delete the workspace.
You know, we've had people in the past say, hey, I just want to delete all my workspaces, and we've tried to make it clear, you know, you don't really need to worry about it. Origin's not going to run out of space. We have plenty of space for the workspaces. But if you delete them all, then you will not be able to access these files. So
I can't just call you, Sean, and say, hey, can you restore my workspaces?
If you call me, Russ, I'm going to send you right to voicemail.
Don't delete your workspaces, everybody. Or be sure that you want to delete it before you do it.
Totally. And one little tip I like to do is if I care about a workspace, I name it. And if I don't care about it, I just let the name be whatever Origin picked. And that's an easy way to filter down. Okay, hey, as you're scrolling the list, okay, everything that says workspace with a number, I probably don't care about it.
Maybe you can delete those as you go.
You can delete those
if
as you
it's
go.
not worth naming, you probably ought to delete it as you go.
Correct.
How many workspaces can I store on Origin, Sean?
I don't know. I think my Origin at home has over 1,000.
Yeah, there's no limit, really, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Okay, so while Jake's cutting, just to reiterate, you know, the whole point of this feature is if you design something, you can bring it into other workspaces. Just don't delete the workspace, and you can access it even offline, which is really powerful in some situations.
And this is just us getting started here. We've got two more workspace things to show you. The next one is going to be exporting.
Yes. Look at that.
That looks good.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I didn't know you were born in 2017, Jake.
Yep.
It's fresh.
It's on there.
Yeah, so, you know, being able to just probe this piece of material, get the center point, putting any icons, words, etc. Don't have to worry about how big is it, spacing it out. It just gets perfect alignment. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's get the light on there.
So
Beautiful. Okay, that's import. That's the most basic possible way to transfer stuff between workspaces.
Correct. You can kind of think of it as copy-paste between workspaces.
I like that.
Yeah.
The next one's even more exciting, export. And people have been asking about this for a long time, and we're excited to deliver.
Super excited.
You can now export any workspace from Origin. And we have a couple that we've worked on that we want to export up out to the cloud, up to my files, so that I can use them in other designs. We've got some shelf pin holes that we designed on Origin. We've got a concealed hinge mortise that we designed on Origin. And I was working on one of those candle holder premium projects earlier, and I've got some tea candles that have a specific diameter. I want to save that project out so that I can work on that elsewhere. So how do we go about that?
So we're going to go into
I think we missed a little bit of Origin screen. So where are you now, Jake?
I am going into scan, into workspaces. I'm going to find that workspace. Even though I'm not looking at it, I'm not looking at that specific set of tape. That's okay. I can still find that workspace. And want to do the concealed hinge.
Yeah, let's send that concealed hinge out.
We're going to select it. Again, we're not looking at that set of tape, so Origin screen is kind of frozen, but that is okay because it still gives us that opportunity to hit that export button.
Little walkthrough.
Yes,
Very nice.
thank you. Yes, thank you.
We're teaching you guys everything that's in these. We do want to name it.
Concealed.
Let's call it Concealed Hinge 2, just in case I already have one in there.
Hinge 2.
Nice.
And export.
Great. That was easy.
Super easy.
Give me those shelf pin holes.
You want the shelf pin holes?
I want the shelf pin holes.
All right. Same dealio. Back into the workspaces. Scroll down or search for... I went too far. 5-hole set. Doing some Sys32 holes.
Mm-hmm.
That's them right there. Export.
Yeah, so if you don't name it something specific, it'll automatically give it a name that won't clash when you upload it. So if you just want to export something quickly, you can do that. But if you want to name it, that's a little bit easier to identify it down the road.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the conclude grid or not?
Yeah, so when you export, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take all the shapes in your workspace, and we're going to send it up to Shaper Hub so you can access them later. Now, optionally, you can also send the grid. And so this is going to be really helpful when positioning of the elements is really important. Sometimes it's not important, and you can turn that off. But we suggest in most cases to keep a grid, export them, and then when you get up into Studio, you're going to have that same translation between the parts that you really care about and the shapes.
Excellent. So I'll keep it.
Yeah, keep it.
Yeah.
Bam.
Okay. Send me that candle holder.
All right. From scan to workspaces. There's the candle holder. Big reason for this is the project, when you download it, does not come with these circles. It's up to you to create them instead of having to do that every time.
Yeah,
Now
so
you can just
the
save
point being that not all candle sizes are the same, so you can use Origin to get any size circle in those two areas. But if we wanted to make a bunch of these and we had to create that every time, make sure in the right spot, it would just be easier to export this up, re-import that again, and then we wouldn't have to recreate it.
Yeah. All right, now let's go onto the laptop here and see where these ended up. Whenever you export a workspace from Origin, it's converted into a studio design in your My Files folder on Shaper Hub. So I'm going to go main nav here, Shaper Hub, nope, My Files. There we go. And here's what we've got. Candle holder exported from Origin, 5-hole set exported from Origin, concealed hinge exported from Origin. Now I can do two things with this. I can open these in Studio. I can do a lot else. I can download them and share on Shaper Hub. We haven't talked about that yet, but we'll mention that in the mid-show break. Let's open this in Studio.
Yeah, and one thing we should mention is when you export off of Origin, they automatically get turned into Studio designs.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so also you can import these into existing Studio designs that you're working on. So say I was working on a cabinet door. I have this file now, and I could import this into the cabinet door that I was working on. But here's something that's really useful. I can take this and I can go into plan mode. You can encode depths on Origin, but I could also encode my depths in Studio if I wanted to. I could do some shape shifting in Studio. I could add text to this in Studio. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself.
Yeah, and I think the main point to explain is once you've exported them, they live in your Shaper account. And so if we go back to the tool and click the import button, and we're now on the My Files import side, we're just going to see those files right at the top. Just as if they were just created on the computer and uploaded, no different on Origin. We can access them. You'll notice they come back in with a custom anchor point so that when position's important, it'll offset that and you can kind of realign things.
Mm-hmm. So I started to mention all the things that you could do in Studio and then import back into the tool, but I think we want to hold off on that for a second here because it's almost been an hour.
Let's take a break.
Brains
Russ.
need a break. Let's call it. What if we called it a middle of the show break? It's kind of a mouthful. Mid-show break. Mid-show break. Let's do our little mid-show break here. This is where we do our announcements. We've got our poll question that you need to answer to be entered into that giveaway. Reminder that giveaway is a big one. We're doing a AutoPass license. We're doing a Studio Perpetual license. We're doing the sweet Larkspur hat, probably the best of the three. And we've got a secret.
I heard Jake might even sign it if you ask him to.
Oh, snap. And then we have a secret giveaway that I can't tell you yet, but we're going to talk about that later.
Nice.
To enter that, answer the poll question, which is, Sean, you requested this one.
Yes, I did.
What features do you want on Origin?
Oh, yes. I totally forgot. I do not remember what I requested.
Everybody's brain
what
needs a
features
break.
would you like on Origin? This is Larkspur is a big release, a lot of new features. But I'm also interested in what else. If you've been a part of us for a while, we're very active on the community, and people love to tell us what they like and want. So please, in the poll question today, tell us what type of features you're wishing for in Origin.
Yeah. Okay. That's one great thing. Announcements. We've got a couple of announcements. We've kind of danced around the Studio thing a little bit in this show. Studio's got a lot of changes happening right now. And I think we should just talk about them. Good changes.
Good changes, yeah.
we should just talk about them outright. I mean, good changes. We're lowering the price.
It's getting cheaper.
So that's cool.
Yep.
Improvement number 2. A lot of people have asked for a perpetual license. So we're now offering a perpetual license on Studio. Not only that, but this is going to be the cheapest way to get Studio over the long run. Why pay for an annual license when you could get a perpetual license for less?
Yeah.
On top of that, all of the Studio features are now available to everybody. It used to be that Shapeshifter and things like this, you had to sign up for a trial to use, or you had to get a license.
Yep.
Now everybody can use these features. And last but not least, I opened up the button on Shaper Hub in my files here, and it said Share with Studio. Now we can share files with Studio. And that's going to make it just easier to send cool stuff to your friends, to remix and share again and make.
Yeah, there's already a ton of projects up there that you can just one click, it'll pop right into Studio, and you can modify or use it.
And we'll do another show on that. This is the Larkspur show, so we're trying to stay focused, but got to talk about that stuff. Yeah. The other thing is that the edge mortising adapter, at long last, is now in stock.
And it got a new shiny face.
It got some polish.
Yeah.
So updated edge mortising adapters are going to have this polished face. If you have an old edge mortising adapter, it's exactly the same. It works fine.
Yeah.
But this is just the change that we're making going forward.
And if you've never seen this, what is it, Russ?
It allows you to do big vertical work with plate. And if you want to learn more, this session is getting so heady already. I don't think that we can cover this, but look at our edge mortising adapter session that we did probably something like a year ago at this point, Jake. Mm-hmm. We've got some really, really good info there. If you do a lot of architectural millwork, or if you're just working around your house, you need the edge mortising adapter. Even if you're working on bigger furniture, it's really helpful.
Yep.
Okay. I think that was it for announcements, really. We just had 2. They're big ones, but just 2.
And now we have a shop tour.
And now we have a shop tour. Yeah, this one is from Joseph. So Goose has that shop tour queued up. Let's roll the tape.
Shop tour is celebrating 10 years. And really the first time the shop's been clean in 10 years. Here we go. Here we got an old stencil maker. Grinding areas. Moving fast. Cleaning up area, including the washroom. Resting area. Office. Tool refurbishing area. On deck. These are in process. That one's almost done. And that one is complete. I think I'm going to put this up on the Shaper Hub. It's worked great for me. Storage area. Some projects. Bonus points if you can tell what that wood is. So we have 4 skylights that we've refurbished here that are functioning. Great for daylight. A sliding table saw. A few projects here. Make a lot of jigs with the Origin. That one was especially handy for something very tricky. Assembly table. This machine's set up to do half laps for shoji screens. These go in and out as needed, including the router table, which is set up to do lock miter corners. Shaper area. Quite a few router bits. Can never have enough. Always something going on here. Over here is the loud room. I like to keep everything in here. Got cyclone, compressor. Keeps the shop a lot quieter. There's the other table saw. Many of my tools have been with me for a long time. bandsaw, chop saw, spindle, another chop saw, some more tools, a couple of routers. One of the most used tools in the shop, the pocket cutter. Hinge and line boring, drill press, tool storage, a couple of old workbenches I use a lot. And here I made this cabinet for all my old tools I've been collecting and I'm gifted over the years. Most are over 100 years old. You can tell which ones aren't. Thanks for watching.
Wow.
That was cool.
I have so many questions. What is it that he does?
You can tell that man spends a lot of time in that shop.
Exactly.
That's the voice of a man who spends a lot of time in the shop.
He's very comfortable there.
A lot of these tools have been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that.
you know you've made it. We got 2 table saws.
Yeah, and you see the radial arm saw. You don't see too many of those these
I know.
days.
Just set up for half laps. Right?
Exactly.
All right, guys. Should we dive back into it?
All right.
Mid break's over.
Mid-break's over. No more break. All work.
Time to get into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay.
We did import. We did export.
Now
What if we
we're-
do both?
Yeah. So we're going to talk a lot now about what we like to call round tripping your designs. So that means creating something on Origin, exporting it up to Shaper Hub, and then making those changes in Studio or another third-party design editor, and then bringing those back to Origin in the same spot, because sometimes Origin has limits on what it can do, and those other tools have more more kind of complex things you can do. So we're going to talk a lot about how you get things up and back down in the same spot.
Yeah. You're pulling plate down for this barbell demo, Jake?
I am.
So, yeah, we talked about this briefly also. There are a few reasons why you would want to send a design out to Studio and work on it and then bring it back. The 3 big ones that we came up with are using Shapeshifter,
Yep.
using Smart Alignment, and then using on Studio design features that aren't available on Origin. So, more elaborate fonts and Find Art, I think, are the 2 really big ones.
Totally.
This first demo, we have a barbell that we designed on Tool. We're going to export that. It's 3 separate shapes right now. We're going to send it into Studio. We will shapeshift this all together and then send it back to Origin.
Boom. So let's do it. Barbell 2. Export. That's over to Russ.
All right, so I am back in Shaper Hub here again. We're going to go to My Files. Here it is, right at the top, Barbell 2. I'm going to say, let's open this in Studio. Now, here's what's cool about this. That custom anchor and the location, this is what that grid and location toggle does. All that stuff came with this barbell. So I've got a custom anchor point right in the middle. I have my 3 shapes here. I am going to shapeshift these all together. Select all. There's my barbell. This all is automatically synchronizing, and so it's going to get sent straight back to Origin, where we can go ahead and import the new design right on top of the old one.
Bam.
Yeah, so if you wanted it to be right on top, you place it right in the 0 points. But, in this case, those other files still exist too. So we'd want to delete those first or turn them into guides or something. So that way when we go to cut, we're only cutting the final shape.
Yeah. All right, that was one. We just knocked that out. That was pretty quick.
Yeah, super fast. I mean, a lot of times you're designing bow ties on the fly because you're like, hey, I want it to match my material. You put some circles down, put this rectangle. Right. Send it up. You can even do it on your phone. Just boop, 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 enter, import it back. You're set. So that's one really good example of a round trip.
I think the next one we should do is Smart Alignment because we have Workstation off here, so we can bring that desk piece back up. We want to modify this desk. The circle's in a really weird place, and so we want to use the grid and the circle probe that we used to bring this design into Studio so that we can add a feature to this well aligned to the edge of our fake desk here.
All right. I just love every time you put your origin down on something that's already seen.
Yeah, let's show that. So it's recognizing this workspace. We're just going to hit that workspace button, accept.
Bam, I'm right
And
back in
here
it.
we are, back on this desk. Now, to remind everybody, the first thing that we did on this was we did a standard grid off of that bottom left corner. Then we probed the location and size of that circle. And what we're going to do, I saw this really cool cable slot for a desk where it's got this circle, you put a little lid on it, and then it has a long slot that goes left to right, so you can slide your cables around that slot. But because the circle's in a weird place, we're going to bring this into Studio so we can just snap this slot right on top of the center of the circle.
Yeah. So step one, we're going to export that up. Oops.
Export. Name. Groove 2.
Sounds like a dance hit.
Over to Russ.
All right. So in the computer here, let's go back again. My files, Groove 2, open in Studio. There are other ways to find this stuff, but that's my favorite place to find it, is just in my files. And now here you can see this custom anchor point over here on the bottom left is the corner of that desk. And then over here I have this circle that is the size and shape of the circle on the desk itself. Now I want to add that cable groove to it. I'm going to do that with a rounded rectangle. Let's go ahead and make this, what do you say, Jake? 10 inches, 12 inches wide? What's going to look good on that?
Yeah,
I think a
12
foot will fit.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and make that 12 inches wide, just a ½ inch tall, and I'm going to make the corner radius 1/4 of an inch to round that all the way. And now, let me make sure that I've got smart alignment turned on here. All I need to do is grab this, and it snaps right to the center of that circle. Now, you could shapeshift this if you chose to. I'm not going to, because all we're really doing here is cutting the slot. We don't need to rehash over the circle. I'm going to leave this just as is. It's, again, always syncing to origin, so what Jake can do here, once he gets the tool set up again, is go ahead and import that. We're doing a little Z-touch now.
And essentially, we just use Studio to snap shapes together easily.
That's it. Yep.
We could have created that on Tool, but with certain shapes and certain complications, you would the snapping is really
The
powerful.
snapping's really nice, yeah.
All right. Import. Top of the list. Groove 2.
Mm-hmm. And we have our same grid as before. We've
Now-
got the same custom anchor point in our Studio design.
And this is an important one here. We need to bring the position of this back to 0, 0. And so one way you can do it is just drag the anchor point to the center of the grid, or you could just type the position, type 0, 0. And that will
There we go.
snap. And all the rotation, the scale, the position, all that stuff is just automatically figured out for you. Okay, boom.
What do you say? Let's cut this slot?
Let's cut it.
Oh, I should have coded that in Studio.
Well, now that he's fixed it, we can export it again, and we don't have to go back to Studio.
There we go.
All right, here we go. I'm going to do this 2 passes.
Okay.
3
Oof.
passes, including finish.
Okay, great. Here's another good one for you guys, just to be reminded about how Origin works. We're cutting these perfectly straight lines here, and you can see Jake's kind of wandering a little bit, and that's okay, because Origin is keeping that dot right exactly on the dotted line, which is representing the tool path that we want that router bit to follow. You can also see for the more pro users, you might be used to this already, you do want to ease into and out of these cuts because you are going to feel a change in resistance, just like you would with any router, but you don't want to let it get away from you. You want to make sure you keep control of that router as you go through the change in cut.
I like the new cam.
New cameras are good. Yeah, props to Goose.
Goose is doing it.
Yeah, we got Goose back on the switchboard today, everybody. Say hello to Goose. All right, finish pass.
Yeah, so you can really see how like these features working together on Origin and Studio just speed up really simple tasks that you otherwise might have to sit there for a few minutes and say, how do I get this shape in the right spot? How do I make sure I'm not accidentally typing in the wrong numbers? It just really speeds up a lot of those common workflows. And we're really excited to have Studio on your phone, in the workshop. You can just pull it out for these really simple tasks. And yeah.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
That looks good.
And so what you see here is because we had that grid on the front edge, this slot and this circle are actually perfectly aligned with it. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to scratch our head thinking about where's our grid, et cetera. It's all going to show up in the right spot. Boom. Nice.
Pretty good.
It's so easy.
All right, so we got shapeshifter covered. We've got snapping covered.
Yep.
Last thing we want to show is how we might use Studio to do some lettering, for example. This is back on Workstation, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
It's okay.
Do the quick changeover. Reminder, if everybody has questions, please make sure to ask those. We'll probably get to Q&A in about 15 minutes or so, because we still have to touch on these AutoPass updates.
Totally. We have some exciting AutoPass updates to talk about.
Yeah.
I have got a question for everybody in the audience. If you have been a Origin owner for a while and you've seen all the updates, what is your favorite feature that's come out of the updates so far?
Because that's been a good one.
There's been a lot. It's kind of hard to pick, you know?
Mine's position.
Oh, you like the
By
position,
far.
yeah.
100%.
I was going to say it was obviously AutoPass, but as much as I love AutoPass, I think it's also position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before position, it was trying to get files in the
a
right
little-
spot was pretty difficult.
Okay, I have these. Yep. Okay, so you need one of these sign pieces. Take that.
Thank you.
There you go. And now, here's kind of what we're doing. We've got this. Who made this Great Britain 2 sailboat sign? This must have been Josh.
It's another Josh.
So what we're doing here is, we've got a piece of stock. You might want to design something a little more complex on this for your sign, but what size is it? All that stuff. You need to set it up on Origin anyway, so we're going to go ahead and set this up. We're going to use the rectangle probe to create a grid and find the center point, find the shape of that rectangle also, and then we can export that out to Studio, where we can do some cool things like find art or insert texts with unique fonts.
Yeah, so this is actually, we're going to combine probing with export now for this example. So we're going to take what we've probed. So we're going to start with a new scan here. And then as soon as we finish that, we'll just go into a probe rectangle. I mean, probe circle could work too. You could also do multiples if your object needed multiple probes. But the idea here is we're going to go around and we're just going to locate all the things that we want to export. So that way when we get into Studio, we're already working in the exact boundaries of the material we have. So here we are, we're doing the probe rectangle. We're just going around. Jake's going to toggle this probably, when he gets up to the top, because he can't actually go around the edge of that with the workstation in the way. Toggle the backside, make sure his grid's turned on, which it is, because it's the first thing he's made in this workspace. And then now we have a center point. So we have a center point of the rectangle and we have the shape. So he's going to go ahead and export this. Okay, and then we'll head over to Studio.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go into my files, sign 2. Let's go ahead and open that up. Open in Studio.
Another little pro tip, Russ, I don't know if you know, as soon as you export something, if you just go to studio.shapertools.com, it'll load the last modified one.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. All right, so we got this sign, and what's cool about this is now I have this bounding box that I know that I want to work inside. We didn't talk about this before the show, but, Sean, I love your dog. So we're going to go...
we're going to make Ghost a little
ghosty.
sign.
Yeah,
nice. He'll love it.
And we're going to make it spooky.
Ooh, I like spooky text.
Yeah, what's it called? Is it called Spooky?
No, it's called...
But it is so much nicer to scroll through these now.
Creepster.
There we go. Ghost. And we can make this, what size is this? About 12 inches. So let's go ahead and see what happens if we make this 10 inches wide. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's perfect.
Yeah, this is kind of the beauty of probing that on Origin and exporting it. You could always measure the piece of rectangle that on the workstation with a measuring stick and type it in on Studio, but why do that when you can get the exact measurements?
Mm-hmm. Now, right, exactly. We've got the exact measurements. Ghost automatically is snapping to the center of this sign here, so that's really convenient. I am going to learn from the last one. I'm going to go into plan mode here, and I'm going to change everything to an online cut, and I'm going to go ahead and just change this outside to a guide. So now Jake's got this design to go ahead and cut out.
Yeah, and so when we go back to Origin, we'll just go to the import screen, hit import, make sure you're at the top of that list, and it'll just show up. So this is kind of one of the beautiful things. Say when you create stuff in Studio, automatically saves, Origin automatically gets it, and it's just so nice to work kind of fluidly through the systems.
Yeah, you've got to probe that workpiece no matter what, so you may as well get the center point.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
be
you're
able
going to have to
with it anyway.
You have to make a grid at some point to get the right alignment, but we also have the right center point. So, all right, let's.
Should we go ahead and cut this out?
Sure.
You got your cutting board. It's only fair that Ghost gets his little dog door welcome sign. Yeah.
Let's see how this depth looks.
Yeah, so you've seen kind of a swath of different types of projects, everything from just saving files up to Shaper Hub, all the way up to modifying them, and then adding probing with the export to get these like really complex things. And you can take this pretty much anywhere,
Yeah.
There's so many cool, interesting projects that need the understanding of the real world, so that you could kind of put your files on top, and being able to probe those shapes and get them. Send them up. It's just it's a beautiful thing.
That zero clearance table saw insert is still my favorite of all the things.
And that was a pretty fun one, because I was thinking, how do I capture this object? And it was like, you know what? I can slap some tape down, use the probing tools, and then bring that into Studio to combine them all together. And then it just came off so beautifully. And I was thinking, how else would I have done this?
Yeah, I don't know, man. My calipers aren't that long to measure the length of that slot, for example.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of guessing and checking at that point when
with
you're
calipers,
using
it's always
rulers
hard.
and tape measures and stuff. Yeah.
Origin's very accurate, so when you're probing these things, it's very on the money.
Yeah, and we've got projects that we've shown you that are applicable to furniture, cabinet making, stuff around your shop, sign making. Really the whole range of things that you would use Origin for, you would use all of this new workspace management stuff and probing for as well. Jake's really cruising on this engraving.
Yeah, Jake's cruising today. Oh yeah, look at that.
You know what I like about this font? Is that it's hard to tell if your cut's a little wobbly. If you're moving too fast and you get a little wobble
You think Jake's moving too fast today?
No, I think Jake's right on the money.
He's a pro. That is one, some people might watch this running Origin, and I've had it said to me too, wow, you really run that thing fast and your cuts still look good. And I think there are some things to remember when you're trying to cut at a faster speed but still get high quality cuts. And so one thing you'll notice is Jake's got his hands planted on the material, and that really helps him move the Origin around in a smoother way. You can even use your fingers to kind of grab the edge of your workstation or whatnot, and that really will help you when you're kind of driving faster. Also, a little down pressure is nice.
A little bit.
Add a little friction to the base and the material you're cutting so you don't get any unnecessary slips.
Yeah, people ask, how do I reduce the friction in my base? And I would say you don't want to reduce the friction in your base. It really helps you keep things on the line.
Yeah,
don't ever wax the base. Don't do anything like that. Don't try to lift it up to reduce the pressure. It feels a little funny at first. But you're going to get used to it. The friction is a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the friction is engineered to give you good quality. And so, like the tape, all the work surfaces that on the plate and workstation, those are built for kind of the best friction. Oh, yeah, look at that. Well, I didn't know I was getting a present out of this one.
It's not for you. It's for Ghost.
It's for Ghost. Okay.
Make sure he knows it's from us.
I will. I'll have you
We'll
sign
sign
it
the
after you
back.
sign the hat.
Love Jake and Russ.
All right. So that's round trip.
That's round trip. Yeah.
I hope that was explained well. I mean, it's really something else. As you try these projects out, get used to the back and forth, and please let us know what you do with it, how you like it, what issues you have. The forum is a great place to discuss those.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you're making with it.
Yeah.
Also, definitely. Okay. I think that's it for workspaces.
That's it.
We saved they're all big ones. We saved a big one for last. I'm not going to say best, but a big one. Something that people have been asking about since day one with AutoPass. We've got 2 big AutoPass updates here. One is AutoPass Pocketing.
Yay, we did it. So now you can, you don't have to do any of the other things that we used to do. You can actually just tell it it's a pocket, turn on AutoPass, set your depth. You're freeform clearing that area out. Pass by pass, and then when you want to go to the next step, you just click the green button.
Yep, the other one is open line support now on AutoPass also.
Yes. And so, maybe while Jake's getting this set up, we'll look back here. This is a sign we actually did for the video, and what you'll notice is that it's actually quite deep. And so these are open pass. That means they don't actually connect at the front and the beginning. So now you can cut back and forth. And it'll go down to your desired depth in passes. And so if you're doing kind of deep cuts, that's a really nice thing. Or like, let's say you're doing a dado of a 1/4-inch bit and you have an open line path, you can just go back and forth 3 times and it'll lower at each end.
Perfect.
Speeds up the process a lot. You don't have to touch the screen. So these are all AutoPass updates that come for everybody who already has AutoPass.
Do you have to pay for them?
No, this is part of AutoPass now. So just like the system updates, sometimes the other updates get better with time as well, too. So AutoPass, this is now part of AutoPass.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Love that. What are you doing now, Jake?
Setting up a little catch-all tray or a pen tray. Something thick that I want to just hog out all that material.
Yeah. We're doing a scan on this. Then we're going to line this up with a grid. And we're probably going to go ahead and do a rectangle probe
We're going to do a rectangle probe, yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
That is something you will find now that the rectangle probe exists, is that a lot of your projects will start with a rectangle probe.
Yeah, what are there more of in the world, circles or rectangles?
It's a great question.
One for the ages. All right, so Jake's being really careful here. He is probing with that 16mm bit, but he is being careful to make sure that he's referencing off of one of the edges of that bit, because you don't want to hit a low point when you're trying to probe.
Yeah, this is
a little off-label here. We recommend that if something's critical, that you probe with the engraving bit for best accuracy.
or
but you can work
do
this
as we
way
say,
too.
not as we do.
Yeah.
But for the sake of speed.
The nice thing about this 16mm bit is that those gaps are so wide you can really feel when you're in between the edges.
Yeah. All right, we're going to do inside. And just use our offset. Or no, we're just pocketing.
You're going back to the pre-days. Yeah, so just change it to a pocket.
Yeah, a whole new way of life here.
Bam.
Maybe give that a little offset.
Yeah,
not in the
yeah, you can always offset it if you want to remove it from the edge a little bit.
Nice. Looks good to me. All right, so this is 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go down to 1.25 inches. And I have not Z-touch, so let's go ahead and do that. 16mm. Z-touch. Now we'll go down to 125. When I turn on AutoPass, it's going to suggest something. There we go. 3 passes feels good.
Yep.
8mm at a time.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do it. It's live, everybody.
It's live.
Nobody wants to wait for those giveaways.
Yeah, so you can adjust the
adjust
depth
that as the important
aggression
thing.
just like
Yeah.
you can for every other pass. And even if you have other passes set up, you can just hover between a pocket and inside or outside shape, and it'll automatically let you cut.
All
Yeah.
right,
Safety glasses. Nice.
let's do it.
All right, so reminder on how this works. Jake's just going to go ahead and pocket out one layer at a time as normal. But when he's done with the first layer, he's going to go ahead and press the green button. That's going to plunge him down to the second layer. And you want to stay in place when you're plunging from one layer to another.
Correct. And, that's... you can choose when to go down. So, in some cases, you're going to need to clear out the entire area. Then you'll hit the green button to go to the next step. Other cases, you might not actually need to clean out the whole pocket. Maybe you're just trying to clean off half of it, or maybe your pocket actually goes off the edge of your material. You don't have to clean it all out. You can just pick exactly what you want and pocket down to whatever depth you want. Just set it in your depth.
Yeah. You might notice this could be another do as we say, not as we do moment, but you do want to try to conventional cut for all of these pockets, especially the heavier pockets that you're cutting. You see Jake's doing a little bit of mowing the lawn here, going straight back and forth. You want to be careful about the climb cuts. He's shaking his head at me. I like to start from the middle and work my way out clockwise. You can also start from the outside and work your way in counterclockwise.
Well, and depending on how much material you're removing and the material. Sometimes you definitely need to conventional cut. Other times you can,
you can mix it up a little bit.
Mow the lawn. You can go up and down, left and right.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
Whatever you like. It's a flexible tool. There are some things that we let you do wrong on purpose. A little flexibility is good, just in case.
Yeah, not all situations are the same. If you're cutting foam or if you're cutting MDF, like the way you mill it out isn't as important because of the material choice.
The reason I bring that up is that when you make your first pocketing cut, if you're going from the inside to the outside, you're going to start plunging on the outside. And it would be a mistake to continue around and climb cut all the way back inside.
One of the beauties, though, is you could clear all that area out, and then before you click the green button, move to a new spot or move to the middle. So it's kind of it leaves a lot of ability for you to choose how you want to clean that material out. All right, I think we're at our final depth. You can see that by the green icon at the top.
And just pocketing this could be good. If we've got good edge quality, we also could go back and swap in one of our 8mm long bits and give this a separate finishing pass.
Well, and I think, one of the things to remember is, just like we do roughing and finishing on the kind of diameter of a shape, you can also do roughing and finishing on your depth. So we could clean all this out to a little bit less than our final depth, and then we can make it a little deeper, just take a small pass, and we're going to get a better bottom finish quality than if we try to take a full chunk at the end.
Look at all that sawdust.
All right. Wow, that AutoPass pocketing sure can remove some material.
Oh, it sure can, Sean.
Okay, nice. So, just like any other pocket, if you wanted to clean that up, you would then change to an inside cut and do your finishing pass. It's no different than if you were doing AutoPass or not.
Yeah. It smells like you were removing a lot of wood.
Yeah, it was.
It's like really cutting.
I did want to point out, though, because you were saying that I was mowing the lawn, which is going back and forth. I was going back and forth, but I was only engaged and taking off material in the conventional direction. So I backed away from it.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
Whatever feels good.
Whatever feels good.
All right, so that's AutoPass pocketing.
Now we've got...
Let's talk about open paths.
Open paths.
Yeah.
Do you need this for that, Jake?
We do.
Okay.
So, if you'll notice when we did the go sign here, these paths are actually closed, which means there's no start and stop to these paths. Now we're going to do something that does have those. And we're just going to do it with on-tool text and show how AutoPass works with these paths. Because this is quite good, quite awesome when you're cutting much deeper than you normally would. Because you can only go so deep with an engraving bit before you'll start seeing quality issues. So this is really about slowly going down to the final depth, just like you would with normal AutoPass. All right, Jake. So what's our first step going to be here?
First step, probably making a rectangular grid.
You know it.
Just drive that home.
I'm going to be making rectangular grids every day now.
All right. Ba-ba-ba.
All right. And then if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat. We'll start answering them pretty soon.
Jake, I've actually got a question because you're about to do this rectangular probe. This is going to be a good one to reiterate. This is from Jim. Jim asks, what do you mean by you will toggle the edge? So what is that button? What does it do? And why do you want to use it?
Perfect timing. We want to, when I say toggle edge, there's just like in the normal grid mode, there's a button here that says edge. That is changing the surface or the face of the bit depending on where you need to use it as a probe. So in this case, I'm using that face farthest away from me, but I can change it to use the opposite. I can even use the center.
Yeah, we haven't really talked too much about where the center comes into play, but let's say you had a rectangle drawn on the surface. We could put an engraving bit in there and use the center of that bit to pinpoint a visual drawn rectangle.
Yeah, let's talk about this toggle one more time because here we are at that workstation face. You can't get around for that edge to work the way that it kind of automatically does. So we need to toggle that so that the dotted edge lines up with the edge of your rectangle / workstation's clamping face.
And then toggle one more time.
Yep, now we need to toggle that back.
Yeah, so if you're doing a rectangle that has the ability to probe all edges, you can kind of just work your way around. You don't really need to think about the toggle. But in cases where you don't have the ability to move all the way around that freely, you'll just need to toggle the edge of the bit, the side of the bit that you're registering against, so that your probing will be correct.
All right.
Okay.
Engraving bit back in.
Yeah, we put a pretty large engraving bit that has, maybe, I don't know, half an inch of depth maybe.
Yeah, a lot. Quarter, 3/8, half. It's big.
Much larger than the bit that comes with Origin for engraving. That also works. Any engraving bit will work. But when these bigger bits, especially the engraving ones, it can get quite hard to actually drive at a certain depth. So you kind of work your way through the depths. But now with AutoPass, and we're just going to create some text on tool.
What do we say we were going to write?
Or whatever you want.
Jake.
I think, how about Penny?
Ah, there you go.
Oh.
I think Ghost and Penny can get their signs today.
Oh, yeah, that's cute.
And let's beef this up pretty tall. We'll do... Penny's my cat.
Yeah, Penny's Jake's cat.
4.5 tall. So we'll do 3 tall. 2 tall. 2.5. That works.
Love it.
Bam.
And now you'll notice. So there's a couple. Once he places this, you're going to notice.
Oh, you scared me.
Oh, he canceled it. What you're going to notice, some of these shapes are closed shapes and others are open shapes. And so the P is a closed shape, and then all the rest have starts and stops. And so we'll see this now. We're going to go ahead and enter our depth that we want to cut.
Say like 3/8. I think this is ½ inch.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good.
3 divided by 8. And it's going to always suggest a number of passes based on...
The bit diameter.
Yeah, turn that offset to 0. Based on the bit diameter, but that feels a little excessive, so I'll just go down. to something like, 3 passes.
Seems about right.
All right.
Now, the beauty is you can always come back. If it's too aggressive, add a few more passes and then keep cutting. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel it's too much, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just exit the cut. add a few more passes and then continue.
And it might be, honestly. Generally any kind of V-bit, it's not designed to be cutting really deep on that first cut. They're engraving bits.
Yeah, so let's cut
Let's
it.
try it.
Let's give it a shot. Quick before I go, I am going to pay special attention when I start the cut, get to the end of that line segment. That is when it's going to plunge to the next depth. So I'm going to intentionally be very still, just to let it plunge and then carry on. Just keep an eye out for that.
All right. Now here's something that's really important about these engraving bits. The deeper you go, the wider that cut gets.
Correct.
So actually, as you're stepping that cut down, the same increment for every cut, it's getting heavier and heavier. You're not just removing more depth, but you're also removing more width every time.
Correct. And so you can see there where, Jake went a little too fast before his finished plunging. So when you get to those ends, you'll just have to give it a minute. Sometimes I like to hold the green button down when you get to the end, especially for those deeper ones. For the more shallow cuts, you can just kind of let it do its thing. But when you're skipping a lot of depth, it's going to take a second to plunge down. So just hold the green button and let it do its thing.
Yep.
And I really like these deep engravings. I've gotten I really like the look.
Yeah, it's really
you normally
cool.
don't see deep engravings with Origin because it's just kind of a lot of entering on the screen. But now with AutoPass, you can just tell it, hey, here's the depth I want to go to.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool for those wilderness-style national park signs, filling that engraving in with paint.
Totally.
We got to get some yellow and brown paint in here.
And we should paint the Larkspur sign.
Yeah, I like that. The deep engraving looks really good. Nice. Holding that steady as you plunge, and then just carrying on there.
Yeah, and this, depending on your material and on the bit you're using, it's going to dictate how many passes you need to do to get a good quality cut. If you're going too deep, you're really getting a lot of, you're going to have to fight it. So making a few more passes will make it a little bit easier. And you can always see what pass you're on. Now, the cool thing about this is you don't actually have to go up and down, come back, and then go down. Actually, every time you hit a corner, it's going to go to the next depth. And so you're kind of zigzagging back and forth on the path.
Exactly. Yeah, so you can see Jake's on that third pass now, so he's only gone over this letter 3 times. Pretty good. A little more than halfway done with this. Way faster than having to go in and change the depth every time.
Oh,
that's
so
for
much
sure.
faster. I mean, you don't have to wait for it to retract in between cuts. You don't have to, type in the wrong thing and then go correct it. It just speeds it up.
Pausing there.
So there you can
not
see.
Pausing there.
He's getting in the groove. Once you get in the groove, you want to just optimize your time. But that's, you can hold the green button down when you get to the end, and when you're ready to go, it'll already be moving a little bit. There you go. So it's a little pro tip when you're trying to go as fast as possible.
I love this view because you can just see that bit floating inside that corrective range there to keep Jake on the line.
Totally. One other thing is, Origin doesn't actually visualize how V-bits are going to show up in cuts, right? We talked about that. The deeper you go, the wider it's getting. One other thing I like to do when I'm using this is, give it a few more passes than you normally would and start cutting. And then you can stop and see what it looks like on pass 5. Look at that depth and say, I actually like it on 5, not past 7. I'm just going to make everything go to pass 5.
Oh, great. And then just leave it at that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, just re-edit your depth to equal whatever the 5th pass was. And then when you go back to cut everything else, so you kind of get this preview while you're cutting as well, which is cool. We did not mention, actually, if Jake were to go off the path in the middle, a resume dot would show up where he can continue to resume as well. So, yeah.
Great.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, Jake?
That's super cool.
Very bold. I love that.
Yeah, actually, even seeing it next to this one, you can kind of get a pretty good picture of the types of things you can create with the different features.
Ghost sign just looks wimpy now.
I know.
Guy.
Jay, you're going to have to pocket that out at least. Okay.
Very cool.
Those are the AutoPass improvements.
Those are most of the AutoPass improvements. There's another one, my favorite. Okay,
Russ's
check
favorite.
this out. All right. Remember AutoPass roughing offsets? When we started designing this, we thought, we want to make sure that people don't take too much material off of their
roughing passes.
Yeah, too much material off of their roughing passes. So we put a limit on that. What was it? Something like 10%,
It was very
20%
small,
of the
like
bit
5%,
diameter.
I think.
Yeah. And that was annoying to me when I wanted to cut tenons because, tenons, they're really easy to cut. You're just cutting that end grain. I wanted to be able to take a big roughing pass on that so I could clear off as much area in one AutoPass kind of path
to keep
as
you from
possible.
doing that second pass for
to
like
keep
a
you
tiny
from doing
little
a bunch.
bit.
Yeah, exactly. And now, okay, so we've put a lot of trust in your hands now. Might be a little more dangerous, but we have upped the maximum roughing pass to half the bit diameter.
Correct.
So you can really hog out these roughing passes now. You want to be a little more careful when you transition from that roughing pass to the finishing pass.
Yeah, because it's gonna take a bigger bite off that final pass
if you choose.
And by default nothing's changing. But for people who have used it and said, man, if I could have just made that a little bit wider for those roughing passes, I wouldn't have to do a second cut path. That's now possible. You can change to a half diameter.
Yeah. And if you want that in the future to be one full bit diameter, email Sean at... No, I'm not going to give out your email address. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you
like
would
we said earlier, the community forum is a great place to discuss your reactions and how you use these tools. So please get on there and start a dialogue with us. A lot of these features that you even see today have come out of conversations we've had with people at trade shows, at in the community forum, and just
Masterclass Live.
From people like Russ telling me, hey, we got to make this thing bigger.
Yeah. And as a reminder, again, got to rehash this. AutoPass is a paid extension, but all of these improvements are free from people who own AutoPass. So
correct.
There you go. Okay. Whew. We're almost there. We have at least two more little things to talk about.
Yeah.
And these are
little
Sean
big
things.
things.
Yeah, little big things.
With everything we do here, we're introducing these new features to you so that you can use them in your workflows. But also, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So we have a team of engineers, designers, testers, and myself really trying to make all the basic things better. So we had some things with Wi-Fi where certain people's Wi-Fi was having trouble connecting or staying connected. We've made some improvements to that now. We're not going to be able to see it on screen here, but what we've added is when your tool is having issues connecting to our services, when you go to the settings page, you're going to actually see a little thing underneath the name of your Wi-Fi that says, hey, we can't connect to the internet. And that's possible because maybe you have connection to your router, but the router isn't able to connect to the internet, which would mean you can't download shapes or files or export or any of the things that Origin does online. So now you'll see this here, and if you click it, and when it shows up, you'll get, instead of this connected green, it'll say no internet, it'll say yellow, and it'll give you a little QR code to help try to fix that. So that's one of the big updates we made. And then let's talk about the other big update, which I'm really excited about. So we made some changes to the way that when you're scanning, and you maybe, we should actually rewind a little bit. When you're using Origin, all the tape should be flat on your material. And that gives Origin the best accuracy possible. Now, if you have it on two different planes or your material's warped, sometimes you'll get a low accuracy error. And when you're making a scan, and that can be pretty frustrating. Now, it used to be super frustrating because the UI for how to fix this wasn't as good as we wanted it. So we took some time in this release to redo that flow, and we're going to show you now what happens when you get this.
Yeah, it's a little improvement. It gives you some options, and it kind of helps explain to you what's going on, which is the important thing. It still told you that something was wrong in the past, but the message was like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. Okay, so we have this workspace that we were working on earlier, and we're going to add some tape right onto the table. This is a no-no.
Yeah, don't do this
Don't
at
do
home.
this.
We're
But
showing you what's
if you
wrong
get into this
on
situation
purpose.
on accident,
Yeah.
we'll now help you out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just to say it again, don't do this. Think that's enough?
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start by scanning the material up here. And instead of going back into the old one that it remembered, we're just going to say, give me a new scan. Okay, so we're going to start scanning. Great. And then we're going to move up and we're going to capture the tape on the table too. And you're going to see maybe some things saying, hey, there's something going on. We're processing. Sometimes Origin will even detect it and kind of toss it out. In other cases, it won't. It's going to process for a minute. Okay, and then Jake's going to save it. And then what's going to happen, we're going to start saving, and it's going to say, boom, we need to stop for a second. We've detected accuracy errors in your scan, and this could decrease cut quality. And that's why we tell you, hey, keep all the tape on the same plane. It's likely that now it tells you what the problem could be. Maybe it's on different planes, or maybe your material is warped. And so we recommend you fixing these issues in the real world and then starting a new scan. And so if you look on the screen, the green button is actually saying rescan. And if we click that, we're going to dump that thing we just made and start another one. Now, if we don't change anything, we're going to continue getting this error over and over. But in this case, yes, we do have tape on different planes. So we're just going to peel that up, get rid of it, and then we're going to hit rescan. And it will start a new scan. That one was deleted. And with any luck, Jake, we'll be all good. Yeah. Okay, so that's how we resolved it. Now, if we kept trying, we couldn't resolve it, but we said, maybe it's a large slab, there is some cup in it. You can use that anyways. Now, obviously, as mentioned in the UI, it says you can get decreased cut quality, and we want that to be a warning to you that, hey, if you really care about the perfect cut quality, you should probably try to rectify the situation. Mm-hmm. But in some cases where you can't, you can load that workspace anyways and continue to cut. Now, one thing you might see when you go to cut is a tape warning, a tape movement error, and that's going to you're going to have difficulty cutting if you're getting that. But what I like to do, if I'm going to try that, I'll load it anyways, put my design in the place where I want it to be, and then I'll just air cut the design. So I'm not actually cutting yet. I don't want to go straight into cutting it. Normally, if you're going to see that issue, you're going to see it while you're air cutting, or you're going to see these things happening with the spindle where it's kind of moving. So that's a good way to check before if it's going to be okay. And sometimes it is okay, But we really want Origin's built on ultra precise cutting, and we want to keep it that way. So these are some small improvements to help you fix those situations.
We're erring on the side of caution.
Correct.
Here, basically, is the gist of it, and we want to help you be able to get it right. 99% of the setups out there are going to be just perfectly fine, and if you haven't had this error before, you're not going to suddenly start getting it.
Yes. You can also see a bunch of the other changes we made. Maybe Russ will pull up the release pages for us.
Yeah, check this out. So we covered maybe half of what actually got changed. I mean, you can see probe circle, flexible workspaces, AutoPass updates, but I think we touched on maybe 2 of this list of bullet points. If you want to go back in here and look at some of the more minor or less noticeable tweaks that we've made that still, we've been working really hard on. Check out our release notes. These are for every software update we do for everything at shapertools.com.
Go update your tools.
Go update your router. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.